Goat housing is probably the most important thing, aside from fences, that you need to consider if you're getting a goat. So in this video, I'm going to go over some of the things that I've done, but I'll show you what we've done to adapt here. But I think what the takeaway from this would be is to be creative in your own space. You know your environment, you know your the weather and everything best, but most importantly, be adaptable. I'm a big advocate of not doing anything permanent until you really know for sure what you want to do, because life with goats changes. You might think they're the best thing in the whole world and that you want to have them forever, but then reality might set in, life throws curveballs, and you would have spent a lot of money on something that didn't work quite the way you wanted it to, or that you end up having to not use at all. But I'm a big advocate of that. I'll show you, yeah, what we've done, and I would love it if you are a goat owner and you have had different ideas that work for you. It'd be fantastic if you would put them in the comments so that people could get ideas. There's 5 things that I can think of off the top of my head that are important and they're important to consider when you're building your shelter for your goats. Number 1, obviously they need shelter. They need protection from the elements. They don't like to get wet, and depending on what environment you're in, you know what you need. Do they need shade, warm, protection from the elements, all of the above? Keep that in mind. Another super important thing is light. They need to be able to have light. I know here we get hard winters, so the barn doors can be closed up for a period of time during the wintertime. I do like to let them go in and out as they want to, but that's not always practical if it gets really cold. So windows, we are very blessed to have a ridge light, but make sure there's windows. I'll show you how I rig my buck hut so that they get light. But anyway, light, however you can do that. Air movement is important even in the wintertime. That ammonia buildup can be there, and they can get sick quickly from that. So it's important to make sure that you have air movement in there. If they're in a small environment, it's even more important. Our main barn is fairly large, so there's a good amount of air movement in there anyway, but it doesn't close up super tight. But I do know of barns that do. So air movement. Another thing to consider is where you're going to put your hay and your water. Don't use a hay bag. Hay nets. Hay nets are not safe. They look handy. They kill goats. So don't do a hay net. Do something else. I'll go over that another time. And well, where you're going to put the feed, how you're going to feed them, and water. Water needs to be easy for you to serve, as well as easy for them to get at and not soil super quickly. And how are you going to clean it? That's something that's easy to forget about, but how are you going to clean it? You need to make sure that you can get in there with a pitchfork and a wheelbarrow easily and not have to do a lot of extra work. It's enough work to clean the thing in the first place. If you have access to larger equipment and you have a larger amount of goats, then obviously you need to make sure that you can get in and out with that. But I have been in situations where the doorway was small. It was awkward to get in and out with the pitchfork and wheelbarrow. So yeah, make sure you keep that in mind. Okay, so this is what I call my buck hut. This is what, it's kind of rustic. This is what my boys stay in. You'll see there's a water trough there. I do dip out of that to serve them water. I have to watch it to make sure it doesn't get gross in the summertime. A lot of times I carry up fresh water during the summer. But they have this area here. You can kind of see where the fence is. I will let them out here during the summer. But it's too close to the barn, and it's not a real strong fence down there by the driveway, so they want to go visit the girls, and they can. So they get locked up into here. You can see I have a gate here, Their pasture is really long. Well, it goes way to the back. I think maybe you can see the gateway in the back. So they have a good big pasture here. Oh, and it looks like little girls got in with the boys. That's not good, but I think it's okay right now. Anyway, side note. Okay, so here I have this little flap here that I have made. It opens up, and then inside, you can see the walls are very multicolored and put together, but it keeps them warm. The outside of the wood has a lot of spaces, so this makes their inside solid. That brush right there is for them to rub on. They love it. It's an old brush from a Steiner street sweeper. So here's where I serve their hay, so I can just open up that flap and put their hay right in there. That right there is where I serve their minerals and kelp and such, so that they theoretically don't go to the bathroom in it as much, but I do have to clean out some buckberries now and then. The water bucket is right over there. You can see I have it sitting in tires. That is so that it doesn't get knocked over, obviously. Looks like I could give them some more water today. It is also a heated water bucket. I run an extension cord up here during the wintertime and plug it in. That has been an amazing thing. I highly recommend that if you can do that. I use an outdoor extension cord, wrap it up good so the where it's joined together doesn't get wet. The worst it's going to do is trip the switch down there in the barn, but yeah, that doesn't. It's happened once, and anyway, that is a highly recommended thing if you can do it. You can see here also that there is a very worn tarp. It'll get one more use. That I let down. And during the winter, there's Everest. You saying hi? Hey, oh, sorry, that's Ben. Ben with a burr. Anyway, I let the tarp down in the wintertime, and it goes about 3/4 of the way down. That cuts out wind and everything and keeps them pretty warm. If we have a really super cold nights, which we do sometimes, I will barricade the rest of the bottom area up. There's Everest with more beards than his burrs than his beard. Anyway, I will barricade the bottom off so that I do close them in there. They stay pretty cozy because there's 4 of them, and that helps quite a bit. And it's facing east, so they generally don't get any direct wind, and they stay nice and dry. And you can see it's not real big, but it's plenty big enough for four goats. You can also see the spaces up above there on the top. That provides really nice airflow during the summertime, and in the wintertime, I staple feed bags up there. There's one over there in the corner, so, oh, yep, there it is. Right, well, you can see it. So I staple the feed bags up, cuts off all the air flow and the wind. There's a couple other areas I'll put up feed bags to keep the wind from flowing in so dramatically. I stuff up all the holes in some way, in some fashion, that goats won't destroy it. And the feed bags are also a lighter color, so they do let some light in here during the daytime. Since it gets dark early in the wintertime, I also have a solar-powered light bulb that I hang up in here. I take it to the main barn and charge it during the day and bring it up here, and it just kind of fades away during the evening, depending on how much sun there has been that day. So this is, well, that's the buck hut thing. So this is the barn that the rest of the goats live in. It's also where I store the food and the hay, where we have water, and I carry it up to the boys, which isn't too far. It's right there, so it's not too bad. But this is our barn. We didn't always have this barn. We had a very old bank barn, which worked fine, but it was not as nice as this. We have a nice concrete floor here, which I can sweep and need to. We have a nice dry area for the hay. They have nice access to their pastures, which they've had most of the time. And I have a nice milking area. Didn't always have that. We made do with what we did have. So hey, this is where we store ours, and it's also, this area that I'm showing you is also where I make pens, extra pens when I need them. I am a big advocate of not building permanent pens until you know that you're going to use them on a regular basis. If I had permanent pens there, I would not be able to be storing the hay. But at this time of year, I don't need to have the permanent pens. There's a space back over in here, right back in this corner there, that I can put up some livestock paneling and have a temporary pen back in there if I want to. So, or even in that corner over there. So both of those two areas, I just put U-nails in the post, or whatever you call them. I call them U-nails. People call them different things, but whatever. It's a U and it goes into the wood like a nail. And I can zip tie the livestock panel to the post and have a nice secure pen there. That's basically what I do here. When the baby goats come, I have a pen that it's a dog play pen that's about 3 foot high probably, and I set that up in the middle of the barn and I can put the newborns in there. Once they get a little bit bigger, they get to move over into here where they have more room. This section that I'm showing you right here, I'll put it up there, and then there's access to be able to go into the big pen here so that the little ones can go in and out as they please. They can go out and play and then run back into their cozy little warm spot where they have their cozy bed and everything. So I'm a big advocate of doing it that way, but at least having versatility. You can zip tie livestock paneling together to make a quick temporary pen pretty much anywhere. Livestock paneling is something I would not ever be without. I love having it. It's great for temporary everything. So let's see. We have very good air ventilation in the barn here. We did in our old barn also. And the shed that I showed you, that my buck hut, that has good air ventilation also. Very, very, very important. I can't stress having enough ventilation, particularly in the summertime. In the wintertime, I can close it up. I can leave some doors open if I want to. It does really nice. This barn will get 10 degrees warmer than it is outside, which can be a big deal. In this barn, we have skylights, which are amazing. I just love them. But they obviously provide light during the day, even if I have to have it closed up. We also have the windows. As you can see, we have several windows around here, too, that make it so that we can have the extra light and air flow. I have all those open during the summertime. And over here, I have my feed stored in barrels over here. Nice airtight barrels. I'm going to tell you they're not necessarily goat proof if the goats get out. I'm not sure how many things are, but I'm sure there are some things. Old freezers. I've heard of people using old freezers. I'm pretty sure that would be a lot more of a challenge for them to get into, but you never know. They find a way to do what they want to do. We also have fans. We are very blessed to have great big large fans. I do use them sometimes, particularly when it's really hot during the summer. They'll get stored here real soon. Not everybody has that, and that's okay. I showed you where the bucks were at. They have that great big tree up on the hill, and they spend quite a bit of time up there. You could see that they were up there in the video that I showed. That's their summertime hangout. They'll sleep up there summertime evenings also. It's an excellent place. They have a nice breeze and shade and a view, beautiful view up there. Okay, out there, the white dome, that's a calf hut. That's kind of my excess shelter. It's sitting there right now just for storage, but it was, the reason we have this nice barn now is because we had a tornado go through about 11 years ago, and it took our old barn. That was very hard, but at the same time, now I have this, and I am not sorry at all. But in the old barn, we didn't have it near as nice as this. We didn't have a concrete floor. We didn't have sky ridge lights, or we had a couple windows, which were helpful, but we didn't have doors that closed up tight. But we made do. Everything worked. And anyway, that igloo there, I had a couple of them right after the tornado that I used to house the bucks in until we got proper shelter built. And those are really nice. I had difficulties with where I could serve their hay and where to keep their water. That was a little bit hard because it was winter, they had to be outside, but those things are nice. They have nice daylight in them, and they really kept warm during the day. The sun came in there and warmed them up. It was a very comfortable place for the animals. So I recommend those if that's something that you can get to. Plus they have, that one's really old, but they also have vent areas that you can open and close according to how much air you want going through there. So summertime they can be wide open. This one does get wet now, but a couple of the ones that we had when we were using them for the bucks were real nice, and I could adjust the vents how I wanted to. Also, people, well, actually, I did this again right before we got the buck shelter built. I built I guess I would call it like a Quonset hut type style thing. Actually, it was just some livestock panels that were zip tied together, and tarp was stretched over them, and you put some stakes in the ground and bend it up so that it's an arch, and you have a really nice shelter for them. I know some people use that to house house their goats, as well as a nice place for calves. I built it so that I could feed the hay and easily, and it was protected, and so they had water. It worked real well. You probably have to repair it yearly, rebuild it, maybe even move it and rebuild it in another spot. I know someone who has done that, and that way you don't have to clean out the pen. That's a real nice thing. But it worked really good until the goats decided that they could climb on it. So that is a consideration. You need to keep that in mind where you're building it and stuff, so that they don't do that, because it was a great play area once they discovered that could happen. And it didn't last real long after that, but shortly after that I built the shelter that they have now. Another thing is cleaning the pen. You need to be able to clean the pen. This here, obviously I can get in here with a piece of equipment. It was made for that. We have a nice skid loader now. That was not always the case. And many pens, these small pens that I was talking about that I would put here, I can get the skid loader in there now, but those are cleaned out by hand many times. Good exercise. But yeah, this is a big pen, particularly in the springtime. It can get quite a bit of buildup in here, which I do let happen so that the goats stay warm. Goats are pretty neat. You can see the hay here is not soiled up. The chickens scratch around in it, and they get whatever fly larvae are down in there, which is wonderful. We don't have a overabundance of flies. And but anyway, being able to come in here with a skid loader, and you need to have a place for a manure pile. It can vary again. You put the manure pile where you feel best with it. We do have somebody come in and spread ours out on the hayfield, but that's not always something people can do. So make it work for yourself. Okay, so talking about cleaning, the buck hut does not have, I cannot get a piece of equipment in there. Plus the hills are a little bit scary to me, I suppose. Somebody who's experienced wouldn't have a problem doing that, but I do have a problem. My nerves just can't do it. But either way, the skid loader or a bucket cannot get into that space. I did make it big enough so that I could easily use the wheelbarrow going in and out. That gets cleaned out by hand. Sometimes that is a very long project because it can be a lot of work. And my manure pile is not too far from there. It just sits out there and basically decays.